One. Hello, so today we're actually going to be analyzing a game that I played just 2 days ago. This was a standard tournament, and I won this game. We had 3 rounds that day, but I'm only going to be uploading 1 game per day here. And the reason why I wasn't uploading for 5 days is because I was training for the classical tournament here. And there's gonna be another one next week, so expect the whole month to just be recaps. So, e4. My opponent goes for the king spawn opening, what I play as the white pieces. And here, I go for c5. Now, c5 is known as the Sicilian defense. Now, I also play the French, but in this game, I played the Sicilian defense. My opponent plays knight to f3, and I go knight to c6. My opponent goes d4, and this is known as the open Sicilian. I go takes, and here I play the accelerated dragon system with g6, with the idea of putting the bishop on g7, putting my knight on f6, maybe playing d6, castling, and I'm going to play with this very nice bishop. My opponent goes bishop to e3, and I go bishop to g7, pressuring this knight. And here they play a little inaccurate move, I would say, c3 here. Now, c3 is a little inaccurate in my opinion, because in some variations, you're gonna castle queenside with white here against the dragon system. And also, the knight wants to go to the c3 square. But there is some compensation. I guess it blocks off the bishop. But usually, knight to c3 or c4 are the main moves here. c4 is known as a Maroczy bind, and there's actually a cool transposition leading to that here. In the opening, knows as the English. Here you play c5, and they go e4, knight to c6. Knight to f3, and suddenly g6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop to g7. Now this is not the exact same move order, but it's just a transposition to the Maroczy bind structure. Instead of that, we had c3. I go knight to f6, and they go queen to c2 because I was attacking the pawn here. And I go castles. And here they play knight to d2, and here, with not much thought, how do you say it? I just played knight to g4 here. Now the idea is just to take the dark squared bishop here. And once I take this dark squared bishop, nothing is gonna challenge my bishop here. And if after takes, which is what happens to the game, I'm not gonna take back, because then that allows bishop to d4 here. And even though I'm still better, I don't want to trade off my dark sword bishop. Instead, I was going to take, which is exactly what happens in the game. Now I might just say, oh my god, you just blundered your queen. No, I didn't. I can just take your queen with check and then win a rook. And then after the king moves, yes, my knight is trapped, but so is your knight. So I'm just going to be up a full rook. And if you play incorrectly, then I'm going to be up 8 points of material here if you can't win my knight. That is not what happens in the game, but it looks like I'm just sacrificing a pawn with knight takes c7, common desperado tactic. Yes, but if you evaluate the position carefully here, yes, I am down a pawn, but their pawn advantage isn't really felt because those are double isolated pawns. Not only that, their king is still in the center, and I have a bishop pair advantage. And noticing that my bishop can't develop anywhere here, I mean on b6, bishop b7, it's too slow. You need to be really fast here. So I go d5, striking in the center immediately. Because when you're down a pawn, the advantages when you're down a pawn, they're not permanent. Okay, they're only temporary. You really have to act fast if you sacrifice a pawn here. So I need to strike in the center immediately. This is the best engine response here. And they go bishop to d3, simply defending the pawn here. And here, what did I play? Queen to g5. I played queen to g5 with an idea to pressure both of these pawns. Now, it looks like a fork, but they can simply just long castle here. And here, what I evaluated was that if I take this, first of all, they can just take this. Second, let's say let's say I take this first. Bishop takes. If knight takes, by the way, I would have just taken here with check here. But if bishop takes, after takes, then I'll tell you why I played bishop d6 later. After something like rook hd1 here. Oh wait, this is an advantage. I was gonna go queen to b6, but I didn't really like this because my opponent might have some initiative here. But I guess I had an attack. But he can't see the evaluation bar when you're playing here. I was annoyed at knight to c4 things, but just queen to a6. So, and I'm still behind in development while my opponent is not. They're taking control of the e file for now. So I take, and I go bishop d6. Now bishop d6 looks like, oh my god, is that just a free pawn? No, it's not. Because then I can go rook a b8, and suddenly after your bishop moves somewhere, first of all, I can take this. You know, bishop, this pawn is not going anywhere. I mean, I can just take this, allow this to happen, but you know, there's just way too much pressure in the position. Even though they're still up a pawn, if you evaluate the position, it's -2, according to the engine. Simply because of the pressure with the bishop pair, open b file, and the open c file. So this is just a nice attacking position to have. Cool thing about the bishop pair is sometimes when you sacrifice a pawn for the bishop pair, you might have an advantage. But if it's just a knight and a bishop, it's not going to be so much felt. That's why bishop pair is 6.5 and the knight pair is only 6 points. But it still depends on the position, of course. We get bishop takes e4 and I go bishop d6, pressuring this pawn. Now, I didn't want to take this, but the engine wants me to take this. Because, let's just say, h3, after takes, I was annoyed at b3 things, you know, and then after this, I don't know, king to b2 looks annoying, but instead, they go king to b1, and just defending their pawn, so I just take my free pawn here. There you go, rook de1, queen to b6, and now that I've won back my pawn, I just have an advantage. And ironically, according to the engine, I am up a pawn. Simply because I have a bishop pair, and it's just easier for black to play this, in my opinion, because they have the bishop pair advantage, they have a nice attack brewing on the king, there's a5, a4 ideas, there's the rook coming to the d and c file, there's the queen moving after a5, queen to a6, and then b4, b5, b4 ideas. So there's just a lot of ideas for black in this position. But just so you know, this game ends in 19 moves. And this is move 16. So, how do I just suddenly win this? Bishop to d3, and here I go rook ac8. Now, the reason why I go rook ac8 is first, I'm pressuring the pawn here, so I'm just threatening to take this because of the pin on the b file. Now, I was expecting something like king to a1 here, and second, it stops the bishop from trading off, and I don't want to lose my bishop pair because that's one of my advantages. Or even knight to c4 things closing off the diagonal. Oh wait, let's say I just play a random move here. Yes, knight to c4 is possible, bishop to c4 is better, and I didn't want that to happen, so I played this an offensive and defensive move here, and here they just go c4, and here I go rook f8 with an idea to sack the rook, to deflect the queen away, so then I can take this pawn over here with a checkmate. Because if you notice, what c4 did is open up my bishop. So really, when you're playing against a bishop pair, you really don't want to open things up. Don't touch your queenside pawns, and make sure the center is close. But in this case, there is no center because both sides don't have center pawns here. If you notice that, they have a queenside majority, and I have a kingside majority. But bishop pair is just absolutely slicing this position here. Rook fd8 is just threatening to take this. So they go b3, and their idea is that after rook takes, queen takes, even though this is still winning, there's some checkmate here. You can't just like teleport. You can't just teleport your queen to a pawn to checkmate. But they forgot one thing. So now you can pause your video to solve. This is just a tactic here. Because if you notice carefully, b3 and c4 has just completely opened up a diagonal for my bishop here. So, if you have successfully solved the puzzle, it was queen to d4. Queen to d4 is simple. Attacks the bishop. So because the rooks are active, now I'm attacking the bishop, right? But the bishop can't move because I'm gonna go queen to a1 checkmate. So here, after like 5 minutes of thought, my opponent simply resigned. So there are 2 more rounds in this day, and my score is now 1. Black 1. So my score is now 1 here, 1 out of 1 so far, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.